The script you provided is a highly dramatized and fictionalized retelling of U.S. Rep. Jasmine Crockett's actual Senate campaign announcement on December 8, 2025, in Dallas, Texas. While it captures some of the fiery spirit and key themes from her real speech, such as criticisms of Sen. John Cornyn's record, calls to confront Donald Trump, and emphasis on issues like rural healthcare, gun violence, voter suppression, and economic pressures, it invents many details for narrative flair, including specific rhetorical pivots, crowd reactions, and unverified behind-the-scenes fallout. In reality, Crockett's roughly 40-minute address at the Frederick Douglass Human Services and Justice Center was passionate, but more grounded, focusing on her unique JC way of energizing low-turnout voters, building a multiracial coalition, and positioning herself as the Democrat best equipped to challenge Republican dominance in Texas. To extend this into a fuller exploration, let's build upon the original script by incorporating accurate elements from the event, adding historical context on Texas politics, deeper analysis of the issues she raised, profiles of key figures involved, potential campaign strategies, reactions from across the political spectrum, and speculative scenarios for how this race could unfold in 2026, all while maintaining a narrative style that could suit an expanded YouTube video breakdown. This extension aims to flesh out the story, providing layers of background, expert insights, and broader implications to create a comprehensive, engaging piece that could stretch a video's runtime for better algorithm performance, as longer content often encourages viewer retention and ad placements under YouTube's policies. Starting with the venue and atmosphere, the original script paints a vivid picture of a diverse, electric crowd in a North Dallas community center, but the actual event unfolded in southern Dallas, a predominantly Black and Hispanic area that aligns with Crockett's congressional district. Over 200 supporters gathered in a gymnasium setting, including local elected officials like Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price and candidates vying for her soon-to-be vacant House seat. The energy was indeed palpable, with cheers and applause punctuating her points, but it began with introductions from community leaders and even a performance by a local rapper who delivered verses hyping her up, elements that added a cultural flair reflective of Dallas's vibrant hip-hop scene and Crockett's appeal to younger, urban voters. This grassroots vibe wasn't just symbolic, it signaled her strategy to mobilize disenfranchised groups who have historically low turnout in Texas elections, where voter suppression tactics like strict ID laws and limited polling sites have long been criticized by Democrats as barriers disproportionately affecting minorities and the poor. Expanding on this, Crockett's opening remarks echoed the script's heartfelt gratitude and personal story, but she delved deeper into her journey from public defender to state legislator to congresswoman, emphasizing how her experiences fighting for criminal justice reform prepared her to tackle systemic inequalities at a higher level. "There are a lot of people that said, 'You've got to stay in the House, we need our voice. We need you there,'" she said in her speech, acknowledging the trade-off of leaving a safe seat for a long-shot Senate bid. "And I understand. But what we need is for me to have a bigger voice. What we need is not only a voice, but we need to make sure that we are going to stop all the hell that is raining down on all of our people." This quote highlights her ambition to amplify marginalized voices, a theme that resonates with Texas's shifting demographics, where Hispanics now make up about 40% of the population and could swing elections if turnout increases. Shifting to the confrontational turn, the script's dramatic pause on naming John Cornyn captures the essence of her critique. But in reality, Crockett wove her attacks throughout the speech rather than building to a single explosive moment. She mocked Cornyn's past bipartisanship claims, joking about becoming his buddy and dancing partner in the Senate, a nod to his earlier comments about working across the aisle while accusing him of abandoning Texas interests to appease Trump. Cornyn used to actually try and help Texas. He used to speak out against Trump the candidate and denounce the border wall. What happened, Big John? Because now, all you're doing is bending the knee, kissing the ring, and running ads about how you vote 99% of the time with Trump, she quipped, drawing laughs and nods from the crowd. This wasn't just rhetoric. It tied into Cornyn's 22-year tenure, during which he's risen to GOP leadership, but faced criticism for not delivering more for Texas on issues like infrastructure and healthcare. Expanding this point, consider Cornyn's record. He's chaired powerful committees, including Judiciary and Finance. Yet Texas ranks near the bottom in healthcare access, with over 5 million uninsured residents and dozens of rural hospitals closing since 2010 due to funding shortfalls. Crockett hammered this, arguing that his seniority hasn't translated to action on Medicaid expansion, which could save those facilities and provide coverage to low-income families. She connected this to broader economic woes, like Trump's proposed tariffs that could raise costs on imported goods. hurting Texas's export-heavy economy. Think agriculture, manufacturing, and energy sectors that employ millions. In a state where small businesses thrive, but face rising inflation, her message aimed to peel off moderate Republicans and independents tired of partisan gridlock. The script's escalation to gun violence rings true to Crockett's priorities, though she didn't list specific shootings like Uvalde or El Paso in the dramatic fashion described. Instead, she broadly condemned the GOP's thoughts and prayers approach, linking it to lax gun laws that have made Texas a hotspot for mass shootings. As Republicans have flooded our streets with guns, have made it easier to get a weapon of war than to vote, the script imagines her saying, which aligns with her real advocacy for common-sense reforms like background checks and assault weapon bans. To extend this, let's dive into the data. Texas has seen over 700 mass shootings since 2014, per Gun Violence Archive, with families in cities like Dallas and Houston living in fear amid active shooter drills in schools. Crockett's anger here stems from personal conviction. As a former prosecutor, she's seen the human cost firsthand. She contrasted this with Cornyn's minimal actions, like his role in the 2022 bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which he dismissed as insufficient while he continues accepting NRA donations. This ties into her broader indictment of Republican cowardice, a word the script uses boldly. Though in her speech, she opted for bending the knee to evoke submission to Trump rather than outright name-calling, perhaps to appeal to a wider audience in a red state. Moving to voter suppression and Greg Abbott, the script weaves a seamless connection between Cornyn and the governor, portraying them as accomplices in disenfranchising Black, brown, young, and poor Texans. While Crockett did touch on Abbott's policies, like the state takeover of Houston ISD, which she framed as punishing diverse communities for not aligning with GOP agendas, her focus was more on federal implications, such as protecting voting rights against state-level restrictions. Texas isn't red. Texas is suppressed, the script declares, a punchy line that echoes real sentiments from activists, but wasn't a direct quote from her speech. In truth, Crockett emphasized expanding the electorate. There are those that say, ain't no way. We done tried it 50 kinds of ways. Let me be clear. Y'all ain't never tried it the JC way. This JC way involves door-knocking in overlooked counties, digital organizing, and leveraging her viral social media presence, over 1 million followers on X and TikTok, to motivate non-voters. Texas has one of the lowest turnout rates in the nation, with only about 46% of eligible voters participating in 2022 midterms, per the U.S. Census. By targeting these groups, she aims to replicate Obama's 2008 coalition building, though she didn't explicitly invoke him. Expanding on suppression, Abbott's policies include purging voter rolls, over 1 million names removed since 2021, often erroneously, closing polling sites in urban areas, and limiting mail-in voting, moves Cornyn has not publicly opposed, reinforcing Crockett's narrative of a rigged system favoring Republicans. The script's life-or-death framing captures Crockett's urgency, but she grounded it in policy, fighting for affordable healthcare amid rural closures. Texas lost 26 rural hospitals since 2010, protecting Social Security from Trump's cuts, and addressing affordability as tariffs threaten to inflate costs for working families. She positioned herself as Texas tough, ready to outwork opponents, with excellence over experience. Audience reactions were enthusiastic, with attendees like Sophia Anwar praising her boldness. People get nervous because we're not used to seeing Democrats be bolder in that way, but I think this is a time where we need that. Post-speech, clips went viral, but Cornyn's team dismissed her as radical, while Paxton used it to attack Cornyn in the GOP primary. To extend further, consider the race's dynamics. Crockett leads Democratic polls with $4.6 million cash on hand, facing State Rep. James Talerico in the primary. If she wins, she'll challenge the GOP nominee, likely Cornyn, Paxton, or Rep. Wesley Hunt, in a state Trump won by 5 points in 2024. Analysts see it as uphill, but her fundraising prowess raised $20 million in 2024 and name recognition from viral moments, like her bleach blonde bad-built butch body clapback at Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, could energize donors nationwide. Reactions vary. Democrats like Roland Martin hyped her launch, while some moderates worry her style is too polarizing for statewide appeal. Republicans view it as a gift, predicting a landslide. Speculatively, if she mobilizes 1-2 million new voters, Texas could flip. Otherwise, it reinforces the red wall. This announcement isn't just a speech, it's a bet on transforming Texas politics through unapologetic confrontation and coalition building, potentially reshaping the Senate map in 2026. To delve even deeper, let's explore Crockett's background for context. Born in St. Louis, but raised in Texas, She earned her law degree from the University of Houston and worked as a public defender, handling cases that exposed her to the injustices in the criminal system. Her entry into politics came in 2020 when she won a state house seat, quickly gaining notice for her eloquent defenses of voting rights during the pandemic. In Congress since 2023, she served on the Oversight Committee, clashing with Republicans in hearings that went viral, amassing a following that rivals AOC's. This celebrity status, fueled by appearances on The View and podcasts, could be a double-edged sword in conservative Texas, where voters prioritize issues over spectacle. On tariffs, for instance, Trump's plans could add $2,600 annually to household costs, per economic models, hitting Texas hard as a trade hub with Mexico. Crockett's pledged to fight them appeals to border communities, but she'll need to navigate anti-immigrant sentiments amplified by Abbott's Operation Lone Star. Gun violence ties into Uvalde's tragedy, where 19 children died in 2022. Crockett has called for federal intervention, contrasting Cornyn's incrementalism. Voter suppression links to SB 1 in 2021, which banned drive-through voting and empowered poll watchers, policies she vows to challenge via the John Lewis Voting Rights Act revival. Political implications extend beyond Texas. A Crockett win would make her the first black woman senator from the South since Reconstruction, inspiring similar bids elsewhere. Her strategy mirrors Beto O'Rourke's 2018 near-miss, visiting all 254 counties, but with a sharper focus on black and Latino turnout. Challenges include GOP gerrymandering, which dilutes urban votes, and Paxton's legal troubles potentially splitting Republicans. If Cornyn prevails in the primary, his $20 million war chest poses a formidable barrier. Reactions from media. CNN's Laura Coates highlighted her Trump focus, while conservative outlets mocked the rapper intro as ghetto. Social media buzzed with support from progressives and skepticism from centrists. Ultimately, this speech marks a pivotal moment, challenging the status quo and forcing Texas Republicans into defense mode. If Crockett's now or never call mobilizes the masses, it could redefine Southern politics. If not, it underscores Democrats' persistent statewide struggles. For more, subscribe and comment on whether her approach flips Texas blue. The script you provided is a highly dramatized and fictionalized retelling of U.S. Rep. Jasmine Crockett's actual Senate campaign announcement on December 8, 2025, in Dallas, Texas. While it captures some of the fiery spirit and key themes from her real speech, such as criticisms of Sen. John Cornyn's record, calls to confront Donald Trump, and emphasis on issues like rural healthcare, gun violence, voter suppression, and economic pressures, it invents many details for narrative flair, including specific rhetorical pivots, crowd reactions, and unverified behind-the-scenes fallout. In reality, Crockett's roughly 40-minute address at the Frederick Douglass Human Services and Justice Center was passionate, but more grounded, focusing on her unique JC way of energizing low-turnout voters, building a multiracial coalition, and positioning herself as the Democrat best equipped to challenge Republican dominance in Texas. To extend this analysis into a much more comprehensive exploration, we'll build upon the original script by incorporating accurate elements from the event, adding historical context on Texas politics, deeper dives into the issues she raised, profiles of key figures involved, potential campaign strategies, reactions from across the political spectrum drawn from recent media and social media sources as of December 18, 2025, speculative scenarios for how this race could unfold in 2026, and broader implications for national politics. This extension will flesh out the story with layers of background, expert insights, data-driven analysis, and interconnected narratives to create an in-depth, engaging piece that could theoretically stretch toward a book-length treatment if fully expanded, though here we'll aim for substantial depth while maintaining coherence. Let's begin by recapping and correcting the core elements of the announcement event itself, drawing from verified reports and direct quotes from Crockett's speech. The venue was the Frederick Douglass Human Services and Justice Center in southern Dallas, not a generic North Dallas community center as the script suggests. This location, in a predominantly black and Hispanic neighborhood within Crockett's congressional district TX30, was symbolically chosen to underscore her roots in community activism and her appeal to underrepresented voters. The crowd numbered over 200, including local elected officials, activists, and everyday supporters diverse in age, race, and background, as the script accurately notes, but with a strong presence of Black and Latino attendees reflective of Dallas's demographics. The atmosphere was electric, but not in the cinematic, build-to-crescendo way portrayed. Instead, it started with warm introductions from figures like Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price and featured a unique cultural element, a performance by local rapper Tree Thought Truth, who delivered verses hyping Crockett's candidacy. This added a youthful, urban flair, tying into her strategy to engage younger voters through social media and cultural relevance, but it also drew mockery from conservative critics who labeled it ghetto or unprofessional, highlighting the racial undertones in political discourse. Crockett's opening remarks followed a standard announcement pattern: gratitude to supporters, a personal backstory of her path from public defender to state legislator to congresswoman, and a vision for a more inclusive Texas. But where the script invents a sudden, dramatic shift to naming Cornyn with a hanging pause that changed the entire tenor, the reality was more integrated. Crockett wove her critiques throughout, starting with a video montage of Trump's insults toward her, for example calling her low IQ and a radical leftist, which she used to frame her campaign as a direct confrontation with Trumpism. "I'm coming for you," she declared to Trump in the video's context, setting a defiant tone. She then pivoted to Cornyn, mocking his attempts at bipartisanship. Cornyn used to actually try and help Texas. He used to speak out against Trump the candidate and denounced the border wall. "What happened, Big John? Because now, all you're doing is bending the knee, kissing the ring, and running ads about how you vote 99% of the time with Trump." This wasn't a freestyle abandonment of notes, as the script dramatizes. Crockett spoke from prepared remarks, but delivered them with her signature passion and humor, joking about becoming Cornyn's buddy and dancing partner in the Senate, a reference to his past comments about working across the aisle with her. Expanding on her criticisms of Cornyn's 22-year record, Crockett highlighted his seniority as hollow, pointing to failures in rural healthcare, where Texas has lost more rural hospitals than nearly any other state, 26 since 2010, according to the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform. She argued that his positions on powerful committees like Finance and Judiciary haven't translated to meaningful action, such as pushing for Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act, which could cover over 1.5 million uninsured Texans and stabilize rural facilities. Data from the Kaiser Family Foundation shows Texas has the highest uninsured rate in the nation at 18%, disproportionately affecting low-income and minority communities. Crockett connected this to broader economic issues, like Trump's proposed tariffs on imports, which economists at the Peterson Institute for International Economics estimate could add $2,600 annually to the average household's costs, hitting Texas hard as a major trade hub with Mexico via NAFTA/USCA agreements. Small businesses in sectors like agriculture, cotton, beef, and manufacturing electronics, autos could face supply chain disruptions, with the Texas Comptroller's Office projecting potential GDP losses in the billions if tariffs escalate to 20-60% as Trump has suggested. Crockett's message here was aimed at peeling off moderate Republicans and independents in suburban and rural areas, where economic pressures, from inflation, Texas CPI up 3.5% year-over-year as of November 2025, are acute. On gun violence, the script's vivid imagery of parents' fears and references to specific shootings like Uvalde 2022, 19 children killed, Santa Fe 2018, and El Paso 2019 aligns loosely with Crockett's themes, but she didn't list them rhetorically as accusations. Instead, she broadly condemned GOP policies for making it easier to get a weapon of war than to vote, advocating for federal reforms like universal background checks and assault weapon bans. Texas has endured over 700 mass shootings since 2014, per the Gun Violence Archive, with active shooter drills now standard in schools. Crockett criticized Cornyn's minimal efforts, such as his lead role in the 2022 bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which expanded background checks for under 21 buyers and funded red flag laws, as insufficient, while he accepts NRA donations over $300,000 in his career, per Open Secrets. This ties into her narrative of Republican cowardice, though she used terms like bending the knee rather than the script's direct cowardice wrapped in a suit. Her anger here is rooted in personal experience as a former prosecutor, having seen gun violence's toll on communities. The script's seamless transition to Gov. Greg Abbott and voter suppression is amplified. Crockett did critique Abbott's policies, like the 2023 state takeover of Houston ISD, seen by critics as punishing diverse, Democratic-leaning districts, but her focus was federal, reviving the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to counter state laws like SB 1 2021, which banned drive-through voting, limited mail-in options, and empowered partisan poll watchers. She explicitly called out suppression tactics, closing polling sites in urban areas. Harris County lost over 50 sites post-2020, purging voter rolls, 1 million names removed since 2021, often erroneously per the Brennan Center, and gerrymandering that dilutes minority votes. Texas isn't red. Texas is suppressed isn't a direct quote, but echoes her sentiment that low turnout 46% in 2022 midterms, per U.S. Census stems from barriers, not apathy. Crockett's J.C. Way promises to change this through grassroots organizing in all 254 counties, digital campaigns on platforms like TikTok, where she has over 1 million followers, and targeting non-voters, potentially adding 1-2 million ballots if successful, per turnout models from the Texas Civic Engagement Table. The life-or-death framing in the script captures Crockett's urgency. This race is life or death for women facing medical emergencies in shuttered rural hospitals, kids in shooter-drilled schools, and seniors choosing between meds and food amid threats to Social Security. Trump's plans could cut benefits by 23% by 2033, per SSA actuaries. She positioned herself as Texas tough, with excellence over Cornyn's experience, and ended with a call to mobilize ignored voters. The crowd's applause was sustained, with attendees like Sophia Anwar noting her boldness. People get nervous because we're not used to seeing Democrats be bolder in that way, but I think this is a time where we need that. Post-event, clips went viral, but the impact was mixed, energizing progressives while prompting Colin Allred to drop his Senate bid and run for House instead. Now, let's delve into reactions, starting with Democrats. While some hailed it as a bold move, Adam Parkomenko tweeted, "Texas just got a whole lot louder. Republicans should be terrified," garnering thousands of retweets. Others expressed concern. House Democrats reportedly dismayed, with one anonymous member telling Axios she ain't winning a general in Texas, citing her polarizing style in a red state. Progressive voices like Roland Martin shared the full speech for context, but critics like BLKELEY argued it shows Democrats have no plan beyond more cowbell. Her fundraising prowess, $4.6 million cash on hand, $20 million raised in 2024, bolsters her primary lead over state rep James Tellerico, but statewide viability is questioned in a state Trump won by 5 points in 2024. Republicans, conversely, celebrated. Speaker Mike Johnson rubbed his hands gleefully when asked, saying, "I'm absolutely delighted. It's one of the greatest things to happen to the Republican Party in a long, long time. She is the face of the Democratic Party." Cornyn's camp called it a gift, with spokesperson Kate Tamarello labeling Crockett radical, theatrical, and ineffective. Ken Paxton, challenging Cornyn in the GOP primary, used it to attack him as too moderate, while Rep. Wesley Hunt positioned himself as a stronger conservative. Fox News panels mocked her as unelectable, with Guy Benson noting her deep blue district experience won't translate statewide. Conservative outlets like Fox and National Review highlighted the rapper intro and Trump video as clown show politics, predicting a landslide loss. Media coverage amplified the divide. Texas Monthly profiled her as a Dallas firebrand leveraging media fame, but questioned statewide appeal. CBS Texas noted it shook up the Democratic primary, while Politico emphasized the jolt to a contentious field. Yahoo and The Hill focused on the Trump insult video, sparking mixed reactions, with conservatives laughing it off. Ebony celebrated it as a milestone for black women in politics, tying it to fights over Obamacare and student loans. On X, posts ranged from supportive e.g. Heidi Lee Stuckenstrom sharing Axios concerns to derisive e.g. Clay Edwards mocking the rapper's performance. Strategically, Crockett's campaign bets on expanding the electorate, like Beto O'Rourke's 2018 near-miss lost by 2.6% to Ted Cruz, but with sharper focus on viral moments. Her bleach blonde bad-built butch body clap back at Marjorie Taylor Greene went mega-viral. Challenges include GOP gerrymandering, Paxton's scandals, splitting Republicans, and Cornyn's $20 million war chest. If she wins the primary March 2026, the general could flip if turnout surges. Otherwise, it reinforces Texas's red status. Historically, Democrats haven't won statewide since 1994. Ann Richards. But demographic shift, Hispanics 40%, blacks 13%, with youth turnout up 10% in 2024. Speculatively, a Crockett victory would make her the first black woman senator from the South since Reconstruction, inspiring bids elsewhere, and reshaping the Senate. GOP favored to hold 53-47 post-2024. If she loses, it could discourage progressive challengers. Broader implications. Her bid tests if confrontation beats moderation in polarized times, influencing 2026 midterms amid Trump's agenda. To further extend, consider Crockett's background. Born in St. Louis, raised in Texas, law degree from University of Houston, public defender handling injustice cases. In the State House 2021-2023, she fought voting rights. In Congress, oversight committee clashes built her brand. Issues like tariffs linked to Texas's $300 billion export economy, guns to 50,000 annual deaths nationwide, healthcare to 5 million uninsured, suppression to eroded Voting Rights Act post-Shelby v. Holder to FI 13. Opponents' profiles: Cornyn, 73, establishment GOP, key on immigration-backed wall funding but bipartisan on guns. Paxton, 62, impeached but acquitted, anti-establishment. Hunt, 42, black conservative, Trump ally. In sum, Crockett's announcement isn't just a speech, it's a seismic bet on transforming Texas through unapologetic advocacy. Whether it changes politics remains seen, but it spotlights deep divides. For more, engage below on her chances.